So I wanted to make this video very quickly in response to some of the responses that I received on my last video about why I don't play video games, not due to any one specific thing that anybody said, but more so due to like a general sense that I got that people don't necessarily know how I define the term hedonism and what kind of hedonism I'm referring to as a problem in that video. And so, to make things very clear, I don't regret any of the time that I spent playing video games, even remotely. I don't regret really anything that I've done because I think everything that you do ultimately leads up to the person that you are now. And if you're happy with or proud of that person, at least in some regard, then you should be happy with what you've done up to that point, even the things that you view often correctly as mistakes. Um, and so I want to put that out there as a caveat to that statement. But I doubly do not regret spending as much time as I have on video games because I think it has given me a breadth of knowledge on the medium, which allows for me to provide recommendations to other people, even just to like with people who are selling off their stuff. Like I know how to help them sell it for a fair price or direct them to resources to figure out how that works. I've been able to fix video game consoles for people. I have been able to have a great many incredible conversations connecting with other people, socializing with other people over the medium. And there are people, you know, of the opposite sex who have literally came on to me because of how well I was able to do in certain games. So it's not as if I am regretful in any way over the amount of time that I've spent on video games. It's more so that there are things which I enjoy doing more right now. And my basic philosophy on life is not one of hedonism, but one of preferenced hedonism. Perhaps, you know, even Epicureanism. I view pleasure as a good thing, but I also view certain pleasures as being above others, right? And I think pain is also good in the sense that it can teach us to have a more nuanced perspective on the pleasures that we have, and oftentimes it works in pursuit of said pleasures. So, as far as like the hierarchy of pleasures in my mind goes, I would put language learning right now at the top, learning about other subjects number two, and consuming media culture of various sorts, of which video games are included, at like number three or four. And so, like, it's not as if I have completely disowned and shunned video games. It's more so that I have been able to identify some structural problems with video games, or maybe not even structural problems, just issues that can come about as a result of playing video games, right? Like alcohol isn't inherently bad. I don't drink. I don't have any intention to drink in the future, but there are plenty of people all year long who are able to consume it in relatively low quantities, and they don't suffer any kind of psychosocial dysfunction as a result of their use of alcohol. And in most ways, it serves to provide enjoyable experiences to them, provide enrichment and socialization to their lives. The same can even be said of other drugs, albeit many of them have more risks or a varied a varied number of risks, different types of risks that people might not be as educated about, but that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm making is that even the most directly hedonistic, the most like overtly hedonistic of pleasures can have a positive impact on a person's life when experienced sparingly. Um, if you get on the hedonic treadmill and you just super serve yourself with pleasure that doesn't require, any effort to receive, then you're going to feel really bad. That's part of actually what makes video games so good, is that they do require effort from the player in order for you to succeed. They feel like little jobs. And humans, I think, perhaps, even on a biological level, although I don't know, I think it's possible that humans require work of some kind. We get depressed and sad if we don't have things that we're pursuing, getting better at, working on. I think I think that's part of what makes video games so addicting for people, in the same way that like a job can be addicting, getting better at painting or art or communication in another language or just your own language can be addicting. I've been addicted to getting better at English my entire life, and it's my native language. It's an addiction that's been so strong for me that I don't think I'll ever shake it, nor would I want to. But it's also a positive type of addiction. It is one that doesn't have any negative downsides for me and serves to improve and enhance my quality of life. I see language learning in much the same regard. And I also see, moderate consumption of video games in the same regard. I think consuming culture of any kind can serve to enhance your life, even if it doesn't necessarily like enrich your knowledge or make you better at a particular skill. It's still enhancing your life, and that's a good thing, right? That is a desirable thing that should be sought after, but it should be sought after in uh, in a moderate kind of way, with moderation in mind. Um, Now, that's part of why I've been able to enjoy so many movies lately, or so much content that I've been reading, is because I have been able to do so in my target language. And obviously, as a result of knowing Spanish, there's vast amounts of content that I wouldn't have been able to understand otherwise, that's left untranslated, that I can consume now with ease. And so, and that's to say nothing of the amount of friends that I'm going to be able to make or have already been able to make who can't communicate in English. So I think I think when it comes to media consumption for me right now, it's satisfying for it to feel like consuming the media is a part of my immersion. It's a part of my workload. And it's contributing to my path to fluency. But that doesn't mean I'm not still consuming media, right? Like, I'm still enjoying the media for what it is. And if I were to play a text-heavy video game in Spanish, I would still be working on my goal, you know. I think by the time that I'm at a C2 or a C1, I'll be able to open myself up to, some of these more long form experiences, albeit in moderation, in shorter intervals than I engaged with in the past. Is that everything I wanted to say? Yeah, I mean, my belief is that life should be enjoyed, that the purpose of us being here on Earth is to enjoy life. We shouldn't bog ourselves down with spooks and societally imposed expectations of what's good and what's bad that we impose on ourselves. Because if you do that, you'll inevitably find out that everything you're doing is meaningless, because those expectations that society places on you and those ideas that they try to force onto you are not real. If you think about them critically, you quickly figure out that It's all just a bunch of cops running around in people's heads, telling them what's right and what's wrong at every moment, and that forms the basis of their life, which is, a completely and utterly meaningless life when you think about it, right? Like it's like even when people give up religion, they're still looking for rules and systems of authority to police themselves internally. And so you'll find people who feel guilty when they watch a movie or play a video game instead of doing something like practicing math or reading about philosophy or something, just because the culture, broadly speaking, values those things. And so they feel like those things are inherently more valuable just because the culture happens to value them. When no, that's not how that works. Those things might be more valuable to you if you enjoy them more, if you derive fulfillment and satisfaction from being able to conquer the hard parts and reach new boundaries and frontiers and paradigms. It can be satisfying to see a hard day's work done well. It can be satisfying to have that light bulb moment where you figured out how to solve a problem that you've been desperately working through. That in and of itself is fun. And so I think I think that's what we should be gearing ourselves towards, right? Like, most people like to work on stuff. It's just a matter of finding the stuff that they want to work on, that they really enjoy and value. Um, but the enjoyment part is what matters there. The pulling yourself together to do something that's meaningful for you is what matters there. And if that's getting really good at Super Mario 64 or Team Fortress 2 or what have you, go on ahead. Wherever your passion lies, go for it. Go all in on it. Don't suppress your passion. Don't try to deaden it. Embrace it. Embrace it to the fullest possible extent and enjoy your life. I think maybe some people misconstrued that video as being like paternalistic, like me trying to assign some sort of objective value to this or that type of behavior or hobby or whatever, when that couldn't be further from the case. I was more so trying to articulate my current preferences and the types of things that I like to do right now, and I believe I'll like to do for the foreseeable future. But obviously, you have to have that philosophical base, right? Like, if you're going to learn a language or, get into math or really anything that requires a lot of input and thought, you got to be doing it for the right reasons. You can't just be doing it because you think it'll make money. Like, obviously, I'm going to make money pursuing this skill, but that's not why I'm doing it. There are other ways to make way more money. I would literally pay money for the rest of my life just to learn Spanish. Do you know why? Because I love learning Spanish. And I love it more than any other hobby that I've had. I've been reading about linguistics and the anthropology of languages and the history of cultures for basically the entire time that I've been able to read. Like, I was perusing through the encyclopedias as a kid. I had a globe that I'd spin around and look at all the different countries, and I'd look them up in the encyclopedias to try and find as much information about them as I could. And when I got on the internet, I wanted to see photos, I wanted to see videos, I wanted to know as many details and facts about all the countries of the world, especially those in South America, in Latin America. And that was because I had an unrelenting passion and drive to understand the world and to go to that part of the world and to go to the rest of the world in general. And it related to my interest in history, which I have always been interested in. Arguably, learning about history as a youngin', through documentaries on PBS as well as the content in my encyclopedias, was part of what made me so interested in reading in the first place, and also in traveling, because I wanted to see the history of the world play out. And I wanted to visit, historical sites that, were significant for understanding the past. So, I have a deep love and affection for the globe, and learning languages is a part of that, but I also have a deep love and affection for language as a whole, including my native language, which is part of why I love reading books so much, right? Literature. I don't immerse myself in literature because I think it'll make me smarter or better than anybody else. I'm no better than anybody else. The reason I do it is because I love the written word. I find the written word to be beautiful. The emotions that the written word is able to evoke from me is like unparalleled. The way that it makes me feel to read and to write, it's incredible. I love articulating things. I love trying to maneuver around language and manipulate language in a way to evoke a feeling, to impart the feelings that I'm having, to transpose them onto you. If not through directly explaining said feelings, then through creatively using the language to draw that feeling out in you. And that's an amazing thing. That is, like, it's brought me to tears at times, reading a great novel or being able to articulate something that I wasn't able to previously, thinking about how language works and how the puzzle pieces come together. Even just listening to a song in Spanish and realizing how it all came together and what the things they're saying really mean in the context of that culture with its rich history. It's brought me to tears, hearing those beautiful sounds, experiencing those words. And it's like life affirming. It's something that propels me, that draws out my will to live with a force that I can't compare to anything else. And so when I talk about why I don't play video games or engage with some other hobby of mine that used to be a big deal, it is because there are other hobbies which make me happier, which provide more pleasure to me. And so when I find myself trying to play a game and feeling like I have something better to do, it's not because I am attempting to apply some sort of arbitrary, societally enforced, spooky ideology onto myself, value system onto myself, and police my own behavior. It is because there is something more fun that I could be doing. And that's how you need to be looking at your life. It's too short. It's too short to torture yourself and force yourself to do things that you don't want to do. If you're on this channel, you're probably in need. Why are you in need? It's because the 9-to-5 grind is not for you, and it's not really for anybody. It is a scam. It is a hell world, and you should instead be focusing on things that spark joy. You didn't ask to be born, but through being born, you also have a tremendous opportunity to live to the fullest extent that you can. And that starts with acknowledging what brings pleasure to you, what enchants you, what attracts you, what you enjoy, and diving into it head first, all the way, and never looking back.